In the year 2387, the Galactic Union had catalogued more than 12,000 intelligent species. Of those 12,000, only one was considered truly unpredictable: humanity. Not because humans were the strongest, not because they possessed the most advanced technology, and certainly not because they ruled the stars. Humans were unpredictable because they never reacted the way logic suggested they should. When threatened, they negotiated. When defeated, they adapted. When cornered, they laughed. The Union's oldest member species, the Varkari, had spent centuries studying psychological warfare. They knew how fear worked. They understood intimidation. Entire civilizations had surrendered without a single shot being fired simply because the Varkari knew which buttons to press. And every civilization feared one thing above all else: predators. The Varkari had mastered the use of predators as symbols of power. For generations, they had controlled a species known throughout the galaxy as the Orcs. The Orcs was not merely dangerous, it was legendary. Standing nearly 6 meters tall on 4 muscular limbs, the beast possessed scales harder than titanium alloys. Its jaws could crush armored vehicles. Its claws could slice through military-grade composites. Entire colonies had been abandoned after a single Orcs escaped containment. Its roar alone was capable of inducing panic responses in over 300 known species. Stories of the creature spread throughout the stars. Parents warned children about it. Military academies studied it. Governments used images of it in propaganda. The Orcs had become the universal symbol of terror. And now the Varkari intended to use it against humanity. The decision came after months of diplomatic failures. The Union wanted exclusive access to Earth's newly discovered helium, 9 deposits, an energy resource capable of powering jump drives for centuries. Earth refused. The Union offered trade agreements. Earth refused. The Union offered military partnerships. Earth refused. Finally, the Varkari High Council decided humanity needed a demonstration, a reminder of their place in the galaxy. So they arranged a spectacle. A massive diplomatic summit was scheduled above Mars. Representatives from hundreds of species attended. News networks broadcast it live across thousands of systems. The stage itself floated inside an enormous orbital arena. At its center stood the High Chancellor of the Varkari. Beside him rested a gigantic containment chamber. Inside it was darkness, and behind that darkness waited the Orcs. The Chancellor addressed the audience. Many young civilizations misunderstand power. The crowd listened. Power is not wealth. Power is not territory. He gestured toward the chamber. Power is fear. The containment field deactivated. The arena trembled. A low growl echoed through the structure. Several delegates visibly recoiled. Others instinctively stepped backward. Then the beast emerged. Gasps filled the arena. The Orcs moved slowly, deliberately. Its black scales reflected the arena lights. Its yellow eyes scanned the audience. Its teeth resembled rows of knives. The monster looked every bit as terrifying as the legends claim. Delegates from dozens of species lowered their gaze immediately. Some species entered defensive stress responses. One ambassador fainted. The Chancellor smiled. This was the reaction he expected. This was the reaction he always received. Then he turned toward the human delegation, and his smile disappeared. The humans weren't afraid. In fact, several of them seemed interested. One human leaned forward. Another appeared to be recording data on a tablet. A third whispered something to her colleague. Then she smiled. The Chancellor frowned. That wasn't supposed to happen. The Orcs roared. The sound shook the arena. Delegates flinched. Security personnel tightened their grip on weapons. The humans remained seated. One even raised an eyebrow. The Chancellor decided to make the demonstration more direct. "Representative Carter," he said. A human woman stood. She wore a simple diplomatic uniform. No armor, no visible weapons, no sign of concern. "Yes?" she asked. The Chancellor gestured toward the Orcs. "Are you familiar with this creature?" Representative Carter studied it carefully. She walked closer. The audience collectively held its breath. Security officers prepared emergency containment systems. The beast stared at her. She stared back. For several long seconds, nobody moved. Then Carter nodded. It kind of looks like a cross between a crocodile and a bear. The translator struggled. Several alien species had no concept of either animal. The Chancellor blinked. Do you understand what this creature is? Sure. And are you not frightened? Carter thought for a moment. Not really. The arena fell silent. Not really. Entire civilizations had surrendered after seeing recordings of the Orcs. Military commanders suffered nightmares about it. Yet this human appeared mildly curious. The Chancellor's irritation grew. You should be. Carter shrugged. We have worse things on Earth. Laughter erupted from the human section. The aliens thought they were joking. The humans weren't. Because on Earth, danger wasn't unusual. Humans came from a world filled with predators. Their ancestors survived giant cats, wolves, bears, crocodiles, sharks, venomous snakes, and countless other threats. Fear existed, but humans had learned long ago that fear alone wasn't enough to stop them. The summit ended awkwardly. The Varkari considered the event a failure. Human media considered it hilarious. Within hours, social networks exploded. People compared the Orcs to Earth animals. Artists created illustrations. Memes spread across the solar system. Someone even started a debate about what the creature would taste like. Nobody expected that question to become important. 3 weeks later, disaster struck. A transport accident occurred while a Karax breeding pair was being relocated through a Varkari-controlled system. Containment failed. One of the creatures escaped. It destroyed 2 stations. A mining colony was evacuated. Several military vessels were damaged. The beast entered jump space and vanished. The Union launched an immediate search operation. Unfortunately, they found it. Unfortunately for everyone involved, they found it on Earth. The Orcs emerged near the northern Pacific Ocean. Within hours, satellites detected its presence. Emergency alerts spread across the planet. Governments mobilized. Military forces prepared. The Galactic Union panicked. Every historical record suggested the same outcome. Mass casualties. Destroyed cities. Global terror. The Varkari prepared formal apologies. They expected Earth to suffer enormously. Instead, something very strange happened. The first humans who encountered the Orcs weren't soldiers. They were fishermen. And when they saw the galaxy's most feared predator standing on a beach, their reaction wasn't terror. One of them reportedly looked at the creature, looked at his friend, and asked, "Do you think that's edible?" The question would soon change galactic history forever. The recording spread across the galaxy within hours. A massive black-scaled Orcs stood on a rocky beach along the Pacific coast, towering over a group of fishermen. The creature growled. The fishermen stared. Then one of them pointed at it and asked the question that would later become legendary. Do you think that's edible? For most species in the Galactic Union, the statement was incomprehensible. The Orcs wasn't food. The Orcs was fear itself. It was the nightmare used to frighten children and intimidate governments. Nobody looked at a Orcs and wondered what seasoning would go best with it. Humans apparently did. The Union's emergency response fleet immediately contacted Earth. Evacuate the region. Deploy military assets. Do not engage directly. Under no circumstances should civilians approach the creature. Earth authorities acknowledged the warnings. Then they discovered something unsettling. Thousands of civilians were already heading toward the area. Not to escape, to see the monster. Tourists arrived first. Then journalists. Then wildlife enthusiasts. Then social media influencers. One live stream titled Alien Monster Watch attracted over 200 million viewers in a single day. The Galactic Union couldn't believe what it was witnessing. A predator capable of destroying armored vehicles was roaming freely, and humans were treating it like an unusual tourist attraction. The Orcs itself seemed equally confused. On most worlds, its appearance triggered panic. Cities emptied. Military forces retreated. Entire populations fled. On Earth, people followed it with cameras. Some even attempted selfies. The beast wandered through remote forests and mountainous regions, largely avoiding major population centers. Experts later concluded that the Orcs was behaving cautiously. Earth smelled wrong. Everything about the planet felt hostile. The gravity was stronger than what it was accustomed to. The atmosphere contained unfamiliar scents. The wildlife constantly challenged its instincts. One day, it encountered a grizzly bear. The bear refused to run. Another day, it approached a herd of musk oxen. They formed a defensive wall and stared it down. The Aurochs had never seen prey behave like that. Then came the wolves. The predator discovered something deeply unsettling about Earth. Many local animals weren't particularly afraid of large carnivores. Some even competed with them. The realization made the beast increasingly aggressive. And eventually, disaster struck. Near a remote research settlement in Alaska, the Aurochs attacked. Several structures were destroyed. Power systems were damaged. Dozens of people became trapped. The footage reached every corner of human civilization. The mood changed instantly. What had been a curiosity became a threat. And humanity responded the way it always had when confronted by dangerous animals. They organized a hunt. The Galactic Union expected tanks, missile strikes, orbital bombardments. Instead, they watched humans prepare in a way that seemed almost primitive. Wildlife experts were consulted. Tracking specialists were recruited. Former military personnel volunteered. Professional hunters offered assistance. Entire teams gathered to study the creature's behavior. One Varkari analyst stared at the reports in disbelief. Why are they tracking it? His assistant looked equally confused. They want to understand how it hunts. Why? So they can hunt it. The analyst nearly fainted. Nobody hunted Aurochs. Nobody. Not successfully. The species had evolved as apex predators on one of the harshest worlds in known space. Even advanced military units avoided direct confrontations. Yet humans appeared determined to stalk the beast through wilderness terrain. The operation began 3 days later. Drones monitored movement from above. Tracking teams followed footprints. Biologists analyzed feeding patterns. Veteran hunters examined behavioral clues. The process fascinated alien observers. Humans approached the problem the same way their ancestors had approached mammoths, tigers, and giant predators. Patiently, methodically, relentlessly. One hunter summarized the strategy during an interview. Everything leaves a pattern. The reporter nodded. The Aurochs too, especially the Aurochs. The hunter smiled. It eats, it sleeps, it moves, it makes mistakes. The Galactic Union was horrified. Humans were speaking about the galaxy's ultimate predator, the same way they spoke about ordinary wildlife. As the days passed, the hunting teams grew closer. Then something unexpected happened. The Aurochs started avoiding them. At first, nobody noticed. But the movement data became increasingly clear. Whenever tracking teams approached, the creature changed direction. Whenever drones appeared overhead, it moved into dense terrain. Whenever traps were discovered, it bypassed them entirely. The predator had recognized something dangerous. For the first time in its life, it was being hunted, and it didn't like it. Meanwhile, public interest exploded. Restaurants began offering Aurochs special menu concepts. Despite having no actual Aurochs meat, television programs debated cooking methods. A famous chef announced that if the creature were ever captured, he wanted the first opportunity to prepare it. The statement became international news. The Union considered it insanity. Humans considered it entertainment. Then came the turning point. One evening, a tracking drone captured footage of the Aurochs attacking a cargo convoy transporting emergency supplies. The beast destroyed several vehicles. No one was killed, but the attack changed everything. The creature was becoming bolder. Authorities concluded that waiting was no longer an option. The hunt entered its final phase. A multinational task force assembled in Alaska. Among them were soldiers, trackers, biologists, engineers, and wildlife experts. The mission was simple. Find the Aurochs. Stop the Aurochs by any means necessary. The Galactic Union watched with growing anxiety. The Varkari High Council watched with something far worse. Fear, because they were beginning to understand something. The Aurochs was no longer the most dangerous predator in this story. Humanity was. Deep within the Alaskan wilderness, the hunters followed fresh tracks through snow-covered valleys. The creature was close, very close. Radio traffic fell silent. Sensors detected movement ahead. Then one of the trackers whispered the words heard around the world. We found it. Thousands of cameras focused on the live feeds. Billions of viewers held their breath. Across the galaxy, Entire civilizations watched. The hunters advanced. The Karaks turned. Yellow eyes locked onto human eyes. Predator met predator. And for the first time in recorded history, the legendary beast looked uncertain. The final hunt was about to begin. The world watched in silence. From the frozen forests of Alaska, live drone feeds transmitted images that billions of viewers across the galaxy could hardly believe. The Karaks stood in a snow-covered valley. The hunting team surrounded it from a distance. No cheering, no dramatic speeches, no reckless charges, just patience. The humans had spent days studying the creature. Now they intended to use everything they had learned. The Karaks sensed the danger immediately. Its powerful head turned slowly as it searched for an escape route. Every path appeared blocked, not by walls, not by weapons, by humans. The beast released a thunderous roar. Trees shook. Snow cascaded from nearby cliffs. Several drones briefly lost signal. Across the galaxy, alien audiences expected the hunters to retreat. Most species would have. The humans did not move. Instead, they adjusted their positions. The Karaks roared again. Still nothing. For the first time in recorded history, its most powerful weapon, fear, was failing. The creature became enraged. With explosive speed, it charged. The ground trembled beneath its massive weight. A lesser species would have frozen. Humans reacted instantly. The hunting teams scattered according to a carefully rehearsed plan. The Karaks slammed into empty ground. Explosions erupted nearby. Not lethal strikes, distractions. The hunters were controlling its movement. For the next several hours, the battle became a contest of endurance. The Karaks possessed incredible strength. Humans possessed something else. Persistance. Every time the creature attempted to rest, drones appeared. Every time it changed direction, trackers anticipated the move. Every time it attacked, the humans adapted. Military analysts throughout the Union were stunned. This wasn't a battle. It was a systematic dismantling of a predator's advantages. The humans weren't trying to overpower the beast. They were exhausting it. The strategy felt strangely familiar. Because it was. Long before humans built spacecraft, their ancestors had hunted dangerous animals using endurance and cooperation. Human beings couldn't outrun many predators. They couldn't outfight them either. But they could keep going, hour after hour, day after day, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. The same ancient strategy was now being used against the galaxy's most feared monster. The realization horrified alien observers. The Karaks finally understood it too. By sunset, the beast was slowing. Its movements became less precise, its attacks less effective. For the first time in its existence, it was experiencing something unfamiliar. It was losing. Desperate, the creature made one final attempt to break free. It charged toward a mountain pass. The humans had anticipated that as well. Massive containment barriers deployed. The Karaks crashed into reinforced structures. The impact shook the valley. Then the hunters closed in. Not recklessly, not heroically, professionally. The operation ended 23 minutes later. When the dust settled, the legendary Karaks lay motionless. The apex predator of 1,000 worlds had been defeated. By humans, the reaction across the galaxy was immediate. Shock, disbelief, confusion. Several major news networks initially assumed the footage was fabricated. Experts demanded verification. Military analysts reviewed every second of the battle. The conclusion remained unchanged. Humanity had successfully hunted a Karaks. The Varkari High Council entered emergency session. Their symbol of fear had fallen. Worse, it had fallen publicly. Every species in the galaxy had witnessed it. The psychological impact was catastrophic. For centuries, the Karaks had represented absolute dominance. Now, it represented failure. One Varkari counselor summarized the problem perfectly. If humans can hunt a Karaks, what exactly are we supposed to threaten them with now? Nobody had an answer. But the strangest part was still to come. Initially, everyone assumed the humans would study the body, perhaps place it in a museum, maybe conduct scientific research. That would have been normal. Instead, a different discussion began spreading through human media. a discussion that alarmed nearly every alien civilization. The question returned, the same question first asked by the fishermen. Was it edible? Scientists performed biological analyses. Medical researchers checked for toxins. Nutrition experts examined tissue samples. The process was surprisingly thorough. After several days, the official report was released. The meat was safe for human consumption. The announcement caused panic throughout the Galactic Union. Surely they weren't serious. They were very serious. The report triggered a cultural phenomenon unlike anything in human history. Chefs requested samples. Restaurants submitted applications. Food networks launched special programs. Cooking competitions appeared almost overnight. Alien diplomats stared at the news in horror. The galaxy's ultimate predator had become a culinary experiment. The first public tasting event attracted millions of viewers. One famous chef held up a prepared slice of Karak's meat before the cameras. The audience waited. The chef took a bite. Several long seconds passed. Then he smiled. Needs seasoning. The internet exploded. Within hours, memes spread throughout human space. Recipes appeared everywhere. Barbecue enthusiasts debated cooking techniques. Professional chefs argued over marinades. Entire communities became obsessed with perfecting Karak's cuisine. Meanwhile, alien civilizations struggled to process what they were seeing. The Karak's wasn't supposed to become food. It was supposed to inspire terror, fear, submission. Instead, humanity had transformed it into dinner. And somehow, that was even more frightening. Because the galaxy was beginning to understand a simple truth, humans did not merely survive dangerous things. They domesticated them, studied them, adapted to them, and occasionally ate them. The Varkari believed the humiliation could not become worse. They were wrong, very wrong, because several months later, a second Karax would arrive on Earth. And this time, humanity would greet it in a way that changed galactic history forever. 3 months after the first Karax hunt, the Galactic Union was still trying to recover from the embarrassment. The Varkari, however, faced a far greater problem. Their political influence had begun to erode. For centuries, they had relied on fear. Not direct military conquest, not overwhelming economic power. Fear. The Karax had been their ultimate symbol. Entire governments had complied with Varkari demands simply because they knew what happened to those who refused. Now that symbol had become a joke, a very delicious joke. Across human space, Karax-themed restaurants had become wildly popular. Tourists bought Karax merchandise. Children collected Karax toys. A famous cooking show dedicated an entire season to recipes inspired by the beast. One restaurant chain even adopted the slogan, "The galaxy's most dangerous flavor." Every time the Varkari saw it, another council member nearly suffered a nervous breakdown. Then came the incident that changed everything. A second Karax escaped containment. This time the accident occurred near the Varkari homeworld. Panic spread immediately. Emergency fleets mobilized. Civilian populations evacuated. Government agencies declared a planetary crisis. The beast destroyed military installations. Freighters disappeared. Several cities entered lockdown. The Varkari reacted exactly as they always had, with fear. And then they did something they never thought they would do. They asked humanity for help. The request stunned the galaxy. For generations, the Varkari had viewed humans as an immature species. Now they were requesting assistance against their own apex predator. The human response arrived 6 hours later. It contained only a single sentence: "We'll be there by breakfast." No one knew whether the statement was intended as reassurance or a threat. The answer turned out to be both. 3 human ships arrived in orbit the following morning. The Varkari expected military fleets. Instead, they received something stranger. Scientists, wildlife specialists, veteran hunters, and 2 celebrity chefs. The Varkari governor stared at the personnel manifest in disbelief. Why are there chefs on this mission? The human commander looked confused. Why wouldn't there be? The governor immediately regretted asking. The operation began that afternoon. Unlike the first hunt, the humans already understood Karak's behavior. They knew its movement patterns, its weaknesses, its hunting instincts. Most importantly, they knew how it reacted when pursued. The hunters tracked the beast through mountain ranges, and dense forests. The Karaks attempted every tactic that had worked against countless species: ambushes, intimidation, sudden attacks. None of them succeeded. Humanity had already learned the lesson. The Predator no longer possessed any secrets. After 2 days, the operation reached its conclusion. Billions watched live. The Karaks emerged from a canyon. The human team surrounded it. The creature roared. Nobody flinched. The Karaks charged. The humans responded with calm precision. 37 minutes later, the hunt was over. Again, the Varkari stood speechless. Their greatest symbol of power had been defeated twice. The first time could be dismissed as luck. The second time destroyed that excuse. Something profound was happening. The galaxy was re-evaluating humanity. For centuries, intelligence had been measured through technology. Military power had been measured through fleets. Influence had been measured through economics. Humans introduced a new metric: adaptability. No matter what challenge appeared, humanity studied it, learned from it, improved, then overcame it. The Karaks was merely the latest example. As months passed, more species began interacting with Earth. Trade increased dramatically. Scientific partnerships expanded. Tourism flourished. Alien visitors arrived, expecting reckless barbarians. Instead, they found curious explorers, inventive engineers, passionate scientists, and absolutely ridiculous cooks. One event in particular became legendary: the Galactic Culinary Summit of 2388. Representatives from over 500 species attended. The centerpiece of the gathering was a banquet featuring dishes from across known space. Near the center of the hall stood the most popular exhibit, a Karak's barbecue. The line stretched for nearly 2 kilometers. Even species that considered the practice horrifying couldn't resist watching. One elderly Varkari diplomat eventually approached the serving table. A human chef smiled. "Want to try some?" The diplomat hesitated. For decades, the Karaks had represented fear, authority, dominance. Now it sat on a plate, covered in sauce. The diplomat took a bite. The hall became silent. Thousands watched. The Varkari representative chewed slowly, then blinked, then took another bite. Finally, he looked at the chef. "This is surprisingly good." The crowd erupted in applause. The moment spread throughout the galaxy. Historians would later describe it as the symbolic end of the Age of Fear, because the lesson wasn't really about the Karaks. It never had been. The lesson was about humanity. Every species feared something: predators, disasters, war, the unknown. Humans feared those things too. The difference was what they did afterward. Most civilizations built walls around their fears. Humans investigated them. Most civilizations avoided danger. Humans studied it. Most civilizations asked, "How do we survive this?" Humans asked a different question: "What can we learn from it?" Sometimes the answer led to scientific breakthroughs. Sometimes it led to exploration. And occasionally, it led to a recipe. Years later, a monument was erected near the site of the first Karak's encounter on Earth. The inscription became one of the most famous quotes in galactic history. It read, "When the galaxy sent its greatest predator to frighten humanity, humanity responded with curiosity." Below it, someone had unofficially added another line: "No one ever admitted responsibility, yet nobody removed it." The second inscription simply said, "Also, it tasted like chicken." And that was the day the galaxy realized something important. The Karaks had never been the apex predator. Humanity was. Not because humans were the strongest, not because they were the fastest, not because they were the most advanced, but because no matter what the universe threw at them, humans always found a way to adapt. And if adaptation failed, they usually tried eating it.